So we're gonna get started. Welcome everyone. We are so glad you joined our second of 4 webinars in a series Leading Through Crisis. I am Monika Deszko, or just call me MJ. I'm the VP of Global Carnet Operations here at Boomerang Carnet. I've been with the company for 12 years and I work with clients to help them do business internationally across the foreign borders effectively and efficiently. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. All the lines are muted, but if you have a question or comment, please type it in a chat box and I will be responding throughout the webinar. I will be moderating the webinar and happy to answer your questions at the end of the webinar. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I would like to introduce our speakers for today. We will be hearing from Andy Shiles, who is the Chief Operating Officer here at Boomerang Carnet, and Rachel Pisani, Business Strategist with Pisani Recruiting and Marketing. And please don't forget, like we mentioned in our invite, you can sign up for a complimentary 30-minute business consultation with any of our panelists or CSSRs here at Boomerang Carnet. I will be sharing the link to sign up in our chat window. And we look forward to working with you in understanding your business challenges more in order to help serve you to the best of our ability. Rachel, if you can move the slides. Next slide. Thank you. We would like to thank some of our Boomerang clients that have been part of the COVID-19 relief efforts, both internationally and domestically. Here are just a few. We have 3M manufacturing the N95 masks to protect healthcare and frontline workers. Ford, GM, and Tesla converted their manufacturing plants to make ventilators and other medical devices to help with the pandemic. HBO encouraging us to stay at home and enjoy free movies and series. I love The Sopranos, one of my favorite. Thermo Fisher, Abbott Labs, German Diagnostics, supplying testing kits and medical devices. These companies have quickly adapted to the new needs of their clients, which look much different 2-3 months ago. It just shows us how we can rise to the occasion to meet our clients' needs by shifting our thinking and focus now. And I want to highlight one company specifically and go into more detail for you. We have many clients who are using their ATA Carnet for COVID-19 relief efforts. Medical device company Accelerate Diagnostics decided to renew their Carnet because they're involved in a response to the pandemic. They will use their Carnet to enter a field service engineer toolbox into foreign countries. So ventilators, X-ray machines, and scanning technology can be sent where needed under ATA Carnet. They would qualify under professional equipment, one of the Carnet conventions. There are 3 Carnet conventions that Carnets can be used for. The Carnet's benefits allow on-site repair of Accelerate's electronic medical devices. Delay of the repairs could potentially inhibit the efficiency and positive outcome of the medical devices. Our client can help with the global response to the pandemic because of the easy entry and exit of the goods across foreign borders. And now let me turn this over to Rachel.
Thank you, Monika. Thank you so much. Let me just let everybody know, if you have any questions throughout the webinar today, go ahead and put them in the chat box there on the corner of your screen. Monika is going to be monitoring the questions, and we are going to save some time at the end of this webinar to do a Q&A. And so please do not hesitate to ask questions. Be specific. Get some answers today. If you're looking to get some answers from any one of us, we'll be happy to provide those Q&A times at the end of the webinar. You can submit a question just to the panelists. if you want some privacy, or you can submit it to your panelists and attendees. So that's on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Feel free to do that throughout this webinar. And also, I just wanted to say thank you. I see a couple of individuals that were that are on here that have already logged in. They actually did a 30-minute consultation with us after our last webinar last month, and we had some great outcomes from those. Really some great brainstorming sessions, got to understand their businesses better, help them come up with ways that they might be able to strategize going forward, coming out of COVID-19. And so we're going to go ahead and get started and take you into the presentation today. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. If you can't see or if you can't hear, why don't we do this before I get started? Can you tell me what kind of company you're working for, either the company name, or can you give me the industry that you're in? Just type it there in the chat box. Freight forwarding. Okay, great. Television production. Great. So we have a lot of film production and camera crews, television production, freight forwarders, brokers. Great. Orchestra management. Heather, were you on the webinar that Kyle did, that Kurt and Monica did last week, I think? Ah, awesome. Great. International logistics. Great. Wow, hydroelectric rehabilitation engineering services. That's awesome.
I don't know if you saw the manufacturer of military drones, and we have a lot of drone companies that are using this now, Rachel.
Yeah. It's actually a incredible technology that is ramping up faster and faster. Satellite internet system. These are great. I'm gonna go ahead and jump in just so that you know, if you haven't been on these webinars before, and if you aren't familiar with who I am a business strategist. I have a recruiting company and a marketing firm, and I work with companies every day to help them create better strategies for their business, whether it's a marketing plan or whether it's helping them shift into a new industry or gain momentum within their client base, expand their footprint, whatever that is. I sit down with them, I help them strategize, help them with their recruiting as well as their marketing and business plans. So I am happy to help you in any way and answer any questions while we're on this call here. I wanted to start, if we can start, with this quote from Albert Einstein. You know, a lot of us have experienced problems or challenges in our business, and we're trying to find a solution. We're trying to figure out how to fix it. The problem is that most of the time we're looking at the same problem with the same mindset that we had when the problem was created. So it's hard to get out of that problem. It's hard to find that new solution or that way of moving forward if we're still at the same level of consciousness that created the problem. So I wanted to give you some strategies today on how we can lead through crises. We're coming out of this COVID-19 tragedy, crises, and when we were discussing things that we should talk about on the call today, we thought, how do we move forward? Not just move forward, but how do we move forward in our thinking? How do we move forward in our planning? Or how do we actually take action, actually move, right? Everybody talks about it, but it doesn't happen until we actually take action. So that's what we're going to be covering today. I'd like to start by just asking a few questions. Anytime that we look at business, it's easy to just plow through and keep going with the momentum that we started with. But we need to take a step back in order to be effective in our business, in order to move forward and go in the direction that we need to head in. We need to take a step back and say, where are we? Where are we today that's different than it was March 15th? Where are we today that's different than it was last month, right? We're in a very different place today than we were 3 months ago. So where are you in your business? What's happened around you? Why are you there, right? It could be COVID-19 has created this situation or circumstance for your business today. So the airlines shut down, or the international travel shut down, or your office shut down, or your vendors aren't providing it in the time that they used to provide services to you. Some of those things you can't control, but some, if we take a step back, we could say, why are we there, right? What do we have that contributed to that? Once we understand why we're where we're at, whether it's vendors delayed services, whether it's international travel being delayed, now we can say, okay, where do we want to be? How do we get there? If we're specific and we actually set specific goals and set specific timeframes with that, we can accomplish those goals. We have to be specific. We can't just say, and I hate the phrase, the new norm, right? I hate when we hear a lot of people talking, they say, this is kind of the new norm. It's really not the new norm. I don't think that we will ever go back to what it was. And I don't think we want a new norm. I think we want something different. I think we want our businesses to grow stronger. I think we want our increase in clients. I think we want an increase in expansion in our footprint across the world. And we want to know how we can accomplish that. So if we write those down, if we're specific about what we want, and we set those specific goals, we can accomplish them. If we start looking at our business, and it seems simple, and you may be thinking these aren't, wisdom nuggets. However, when you get into a crisis and you're in the middle of a situation where you're treading water, where you're just trying to survive, where you're just trying to get back on your feet, sometimes we forget our why. We forget why we started this in the first place. Why did you start being a photographer? Why did you start being a musician? Why did you start taking this to the world yourself, right? What is it that made you start your business in the first place? And what is it that you want to be remembered for? If you have a passion, if you have a desire, then nothing that you do can be a failure. Nothing that you can do can be stopped because you've got a passion and a desire to see it succeed. Sometimes when we're in the middle of a crisis, we're so in the trenches that we need some time to zoom out. Everybody's doing Zoom calls. How many of you have been doing Zoom calls throughout this week? Raise your hand or send a chat. Yes. I see we have been doing Zoom calls all week. Every day I'm on another Zoom call. And what I was thinking about is really, when we're in the middle of a crisis, we are so in the trenches and we are so down deep that sometimes we need to just zoom out. We need to take a break. We need to look at the big picture, look around us, right? The last webinar we talked about looking at some of the other industries. What are some of the other industries doing that are getting back on their feet? This is a way that we can zoom out. We can take a step back, look at the big picture and say, what's happening? What's happening with the medical devices industry? What's happening with the satellite industries? What's happening with the trade shows right now? Are we doing virtual trade shows? Are we doing virtual meetings right now? What's happening with sportswear? Nike, when all of this happened, instead of stopping their advertising, they doubled down on their advertising. And when they doubled down on their advertising, they said, hey, you can play it anywhere, play it indoors, play it in your house, right? You can still do your sport. You can still work out. You can still be athletic. You can still train. Just do it in a different way. They didn't stop their advertising. A lot of businesses have shut down over the last 2 or 3 months. People have been laid off. Businesses have canceled events. So this is affecting each of us in different ways. How do we zoom out and look at the big picture and say, okay, what is happening around us that we can actually focus on and maybe take our business to the next level? It's important for you to do things like this webinar. This webinar is a place for you to brainstorm. It gives you examples. It gives you, Monica gave us an example of a company that was helping with COVID-19 relief efforts, right? She gave you examples of how Carnet helped them to do that. Andy's going to talk in a little bit about how we're doing that for other companies. And hearing these ideas, hearing what other companies are doing will help you to brainstorm for yourself and for your company. Once you've brainstormed with others, once you've entertained other webinars or listened to other individuals talk about what they're doing, you can get some ideas for your own business. When we did a consultation with one of the attendees from last month's webinar, we were talking to her and she said, hey, my industry is doing nothing right now. Like, it's dead. I cannot go to a trade show. They're not doing trade shows. That's what I do. That's what I service. How can I survive? And Monique and I were able to speak to her and help her understand her service can be provided in a different way to a different industry. So by stepping outside of the industry that she was serving today, now she's able to make revenue, she's able to drive revenue and still increase her business by stepping outside of what her norm was. That helps when you're brainstorming. The other thing that I think is important, I know you've heard that song, Let It Go, right? You could also sing the song Shake It Off. I don't know if you've heard that. But yes, shake it off, let it go. If it's not working, let it go. Any success or motivational speaker will tell you, looking at the past will not serve you for your future. You have to look for your future. So we don't like where we're at. We don't like what's happened. We're stressed. We've spent months stressing about it, months trying to figure out how we're going to do it, applying for PPP and applying for loans and grants. And guess what? We are where we are today. And in order for us to move forward, we have to let some things go. There are some things that will not serve us in the future. And so if the business has changed, if something's not happening today, we need to find ways that we can get into it in the future and not stay stagnant. Don't focus on what's not working. Focus on what is working. Don't focus on the industries that haven't opened up yet. Focus on the industries that have opened. Simple, analogy. I'm in Virginia, and Virginia has not opened up. So I spent weeks frustrated at the fact that I couldn't get my nails done, right? A couple of weeks ago, I realized I am a half an hour from West Virginia, who has been open for weeks, right? So I was so focused on the problem, can't do it, it's not open, it's not possible. And I sat there along with millions of other women in Virginia that have sat there and said, okay, we just accept it, it's not open. When all it took was a 30-minute drive for me to solve the solution. It's a simple analogy, and I know you're probably laughing at it, but I know Andy's laughing at it, obviously. But it's an example of I could have sat there for another 2 weeks complaining or being frustrated with the fact that, okay, I just can't do it. And in actuality, there was a solution all along. I just hadn't thought of it. So let go of what's not working and move forward. If you can identify your needs, if you can get a clear picture of what you want your business to look like, and maybe that's a picture that doesn't look like it did a couple of months ago. Maybe that picture looks different. Maybe this time has been a time where you can sit back and say, hey, I needed to do something different. I have a friend that owned a hair salon, and she was shut down for weeks. And the whole time that she was shut down, she kept saying, you know, I'm just so tired of it. Like, I'm tired of dealing with the stylist. I'm tired of dealing with the clients. I'm tired of dealing with the leases. You know, I'm just so tired of this business. And the day that they were able to open back up, her stylist came in and resigned. If that's not the universe telling you that you need to move forward and you need to do something else, I don't know what is. We don't want to see those pictures, right? We don't want to hear that. But in actuality, if we take a step back, if we zoom out, we can really sit down and identify our needs and say, is this what I want my business to look like anyways? You know what? I was really trying to get into those other countries, or I was really trying to expand my footprint within this industry. And, you know, I really wanted to get into the automotive space and I never was able to because I was so busy dealing with everything else. Now is the time for you to get a clear picture of what you really want your business to look like. Then you need to identify the resources that you need. Resources are not just individuals. They're not just people. Resources are not just money. Resources encompass what are the tools that you need? What are the people that you need? What are the paperwork? What is the process that you need? All of those are resources for your business. If you can identify those, now you can make a list and you can start gaining the knowledge and the tools and the people and the resources that you need to accomplish your goals. I think one of the very most important things, and Monica touched on it earlier in the webinar, you have to make a shift. If you've ever drove a stick shift car, right? I don't know, what do they call it, a manual? When I was learning to drive years ago, you know, my dad was under the belief that if you're going to learn to drive, you have to learn how to drive a manual before I let you drive anything, right? Now, I never owned a manual car. All of my cars were automatic, but I had to learn how to do the clutch, and I had to learn how to shift the gears, and I had to learn how to drive. And his philosophy was, if I could do all of those things at the same time, I was paying attention to my driving and not paying attention to everything else. If I could focus on changing gears, using the clutch, lifting off of the gas, going in the right direction, then I would stay focused on what I really needed to be focused on, which was driving. When you would get to that certain speed, you would start hearing your engine, and then you would know you had to shift, right? I know you're laughing at me. It's a simple analogy, but it's true. In our business, we get to that certain speed and we don't listen to it. We don't want to admit it, but we are at that place where we need to make a shift. And if we make that shift, all of a sudden the gears go back in line and you start driving more smoothly, right? And when you do that, you actually can accelerate. So if anyone's ever rode a motorcycle, rode a stick shift, you know what I'm talking about. If you can make that shift, you can actually accelerate in your business. So what is the shift that you need to make? What is it that you need to stop and change? Last time we talked about pivot, right? This time we're talking about shifting your focus, focusing on the goal, not the problem, on the future, not the past. And then this is a big one. Take action. How many procrastinators do I have on this call? Can you just raise your hand? Yeah, you probably don't want to out yourself right now, but I procrastinate about a lot of things, right? I procrastinate about losing weight. I procrastinate about making that phone call to someone for a collections account, right? I don't want to collect that from somebody. I don't want to have that conversation with someone because it's confrontational. I don't want to deal with that employee because I don't like what I'm going to have to say, right? We procrastinate about a lot of things. But if we can stop procrastinating and actually take action, then we can move forward. So there's a time to plan, there's a time to think, there's a time to brainstorm. Does anybody have a friend that pontificates about everything? They know everything about everything, and they will talk for hours about what they want to do and how they would do it and what they would do differently, but they've never actually done anything. I'm sure we all have people in our life that we can point to that are like that. If you don't stop procrastinating, if you don't stop thinking at some point, stop planning at some point, and just jump, take action, if you don't, then you have to, you'll never move forward. You'll never move forward. So taking action is a big part of moving forward. Another key element, I think, and this ties into brainstorming as well, but I think it's important that we collaborate. If you're a business owner, how many business owners do I have on the call here? Is anyone a actual business owner or sole proprietor on this call? Good. Good. So you'll understand if you are an owner or an executive or a VP, or you have a team, a lot of times you want to set the direction for your company, or set the direction for your division, or set the direction for your team. If you don't collaborate, it's really hard to get people to buy into your vision. You need to collaborate, and not just collaborate with your employees, but you need to collaborate with your partners, with your vendors, with your clients. You need to collaborate with your team internally and externally. One of the greatest things that you can do for your business right now is communicate and collaborate. Communicate to your clients, vendors, partners, employees. Collaborate with them. Come up with ideas. When I get on a call with Andy or Monica or Moira, when I get on a call with any of them, we come up with things that are much better than anything I would come up with by myself, right? Because we've collaborated. We can feed off of each other. They have experiences that I don't have, and vice versa. So when you can collaborate, this sounds so basic, but as human beings, we forget it. When we get to a certain level, sometimes we just think, well, this is the way it's going to be, and I'm just going to make this decision and we're going to move forward. And we've never taken the time to collaborate with what is it that our clients are really needing right now. If you're a musician, they're missing those symphonies. They're missing going to an orchestra and hearing someone play. They're missing that, right? It feeds their souls. That's what your clients need. That's what your audience needs. So how can you provide that to them, maybe in a new way, maybe in a new venue? How do you do that? How are we providing? Monica talked about some of the Tesla and other corporations that really stopped what they were doing, stopped the manufacturing of their vehicles, and started manufacturing things that we needed for COVID-19 relief. They saw a need and they had the resources and the tools to provide it to them. How can you use your business and your service to provide what your clients, what your audience is really needing right now? I'm going to turn this over to Andy, and I'm going to be here to answer questions at the end if you have any questions, but I hope that you've gotten something out of this today. The one thing that I'd like to leave you with is, if you can do anything to grow your business and expand your business, it's got to be shift your mindset, shift your focus. Look at the future, get an idea of what you want, and then let's create a roadmap to do that. Let's create a plan to get you there. Your business will never look the same. 9/11, our country was never the same after 9/11. Our country will never be the same after COVID-19. But our businesses can thrive. Our businesses can succeed. It may look different, but it can succeed. So let's work with you. We would love to work with you. Make sure you schedule a consultation after this if you can. We would love to work with you to help put a plan together to get you on track, or to help you shift your focus or move in a direction that you need to move into. Andy, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll be here if you have any questions.
All right. Yeah, folks, I appreciate y'all joining us, and thank you, Rachel. The one thing that as you're looking at it is, and we're talking about the 30-minute consultation. Folks, this is our way of giving back to you. This is our way of trying to help you, whether you are a small business owner, whether you are an association, a company, a service provider, a member of a department of a bigger company. Doesn't matter. It's like we want to try and help get business back up and running. And so that's what we're trying to do. And what we're not, it's not a sales pitch. It's a case of, hey, what are you doing? What are your struggles? Maybe we can help come up with some ideas. Also, we want to know what you're going through so that we may have a better idea of how we can, service you in more ways and service you in a better way. With all that, let me just say also that before I'm going too much further, let me give you a little bit of my background. And I'm not trying to be egotistical about this, but I'm just really loving what I'm doing and loving this company. My background, though, I had a very long, great career with FedEx. Had it for 32 years there, and did a lot of things, circled the globe, did all kinds of things there. And you could go on LinkedIn if you want. You can see my background there if you're wanting to take a look. But in that, let me just say this. One of the things I wound up doing, one of the jobs I had during my tenure at FedEx, I ran the largest clearance facility outside of the U.S. It was the second largest in the world. Memphis, of course, being the big one, granddaddy of them all. So at the time, I was running. It was in the Toronto facility in Toronto hub. Had a $20 million a year budget. We improved service when I took over. It went from 63% to 98.5% same day clearance. We wound up doubling our volume, and I actually reduced headcount over that time period. So, as far as operations, clearance, dealing with imports and exports and all those kinds of things, I've got a lot of experience dealing with a lot of employees, different management, coming up with innovative ways to streamline processes. Another thing I've done is in some consulting. I worked with a healthcare company, and they went from 4.2 million a year in revenue to they're now at $28 million a year, and they did that in 4 years' time. Wound up working with them to restructure some things and grow. And they went from the largest healthcare provider for what they did in West Tennessee to now they're the largest provider in the state of Tennessee. And just the state of Tennessee just loves them. A fast food operation. Wound up working with a company that was a very popular chain. They were number 22 in the country as far as revenue and operations. And I worked with them, and they actually moved from number 22 up to number 15 as I was working with them, and they have since even gone up to number 12. Well, if you stop and think, dealing with Division I, let's say basketball, and you're in the top 25, as you move up, one spot in that top 25 is a big feat. And as you get into, the top 15, top 10, as you approach that is a tough thing. This company, that franchise wound up going from basically number 22 to number 12, which was phenomenal. And increased their revenue from 7 million to 8.5 million. And they did that in a year's time. Another thing is that I've worked on helping to stimulate trade for American businesses. I wound up negotiating with governments and private sector around the world to help create opportunities for American businesses to basically penetrate with U.S. goods into foreign markets. And it's been a fun ride. It's been a great opportunities for all that. I say all those things to tell you that what I'm striving for is we're talking through on this webinar is not to sit here and say, look at what I've done or look at what we can do. I want to see what we can do to help you be successful. We've got a lot of success stories that we have looked at. We've got a fantastic group of people that we get to work with. And some of the things that we go through is highlighting, again, what are our clients doing? We have a client, Clean Rooms West Incorporated. They are a key factor. Matter of fact, this COVID-19 situation has, again, expanded their situation. Not all businesses have been completely shut down. In this case, they actually manufacture and set up and create clean rooms. And so they were able to, the clean rooms, I've had the opportunity to actually see a semiconductor company here in the States that they have a huge facility that is in a clean room environment where everybody's, you see Intel has done it, this other company has done it, where you see the people in their full suits that and no dust and all those kinds of things. Well, that's what this Clean Rooms West company builds, is they build those kinds of environments, whether they're permanent or temporary. So they were able to utilize this in setting things up from a technological, a biological, pharmaceutical type industries. Depends on what you're needing. There's a lot of uses for that. They have used an ATA Carnet and they set up initially for 20 trips during this COVID situation. And they actually sent the equipment and mobile temporary clean rooms into some hot spots around the world. And matter of fact, it has been so successful for them, they're able to use this Carnet in taking all of that, find the need, fill that need with their clean rooms, but be able to take that equipment and set it up duty and tax free into several countries. They have since actually doubled their packet, if you will. So they are now looking at 20 more trips. So there'll be a total of 40 trips to different countries in what they're looking at. So basically, they're able to use the ATA Carnet and to expand their international markets and uses of their products. What they're doing, though, is they're able to also avoid the duties and taxes. It saves them time. They're able to go to multiple countries. In other words, that Carnet, it's working smarter, not harder. It's a case of you set up one set of documents for the Carnet for those goods that they're exporting and importing into the different countries. And then, of course, whatever goes into a country comes out of that. So with that, let me just say that we have a great appreciation for, their fight in the COVID-19 situation, but they've been able to expand their market and the use of their product in other countries and utilizing that through the ATA Carnet, which is good. What I want to do is say that the ATA Carnet is a powerful tool. And as we are looking at using this tool for, exports and increasing your export strategy, the one thing I want you all to look at, even if you are in a scenario where you're predominantly looking at a domestic market for your product or your services, the other thing is that with this COVID situation, one of the things that's paramount is that things have changed dramatically. China and the situation there is, I think they're going to see some repercussions on the way this thing was handled. Whether you agree with them or not, it doesn't matter. There is a anti-Chinese sentiment right now, especially in the U.S. But there's also opportunities that are really coming out of this whole situation. There's a lot of, as a matter of fact, I talked to a gentleman just last night that was looking at his clients are moving away from China as a source. People are looking for other sources for their goods, whether they're here in the U.S. as far as domestic manufacturing or in other countries. And so with that, that's the one thing that as you expand the market, if you have a U.S. product in particular, then with the trade deals that have already been negotiated and coming through, I see a great opportunity for American businesses to expand your market, if you will, internationally and to penetrate, even if you're already out internationally in some of these countries, to penetrate that market even deeper because of the trade deals. So as we're looking at that, your export strategy and increasing sales, consider using the ATA Carnet. With that, let me just talk about what is a Carnet. The ATA Carnet, for the short term, the easy thing is to say it's the passport for goods. That's what a lot of folks have dubbed it. Just like you have a passport for your own travels, you'll have a passport for, in a sense, a set of documents, the ATA Carnet, for a set of goods. Now, you can use this to take your goods and export them from the U.S. to, obviously different countries. It's for temporary export and import. So in other words, whatever goes into a country, let's say you export it from the U.S., and I notice it's the military drones, for example. You're wanting to take your drones and show those to some potential buyers, obviously, or at a, let's say, an air show or at some kind of trade show or some kind of meeting. You can take your products and all the equipment that goes with it, put it under ATA Carnet, go into a country, and let's just say, for the sake of this, I'm just going to say France off the top of my head. So you go into France, you can use the Carnet, and it will be duty and tax-free going into that country, but whatever goes in needs to come out. So you can go to France, and let's say then you want to go over to Singapore, and then you're going to, come back to the U.S. Well, then you can do that all on one set of documents. And again, you're going to wind up being able to save your duties and taxes and do it cost effectively. So the other scenario here is that the uses of a Carnet, the three predominantly major uses, is professional equipment, commercial samples, and exhibitions and fairs. Professional equipment would be a lot of times, again, if you have, let's say that you have equipment that you need to go and do some testing, quality assurance testing on a manufacturing line. Or if you are a reporter or a photographer, or there's some, you're going to do a shoot where you're going to film a commercial, a television show, or a movie. All of that equipment can be used under the professional equipment scenario there, where you're going and obviously use the equipment, and then you'll export it back out. Commercial samples, hey, you've manufactured, invented a new machine, the new drone, the new some kind of jewelry, or hey, you've got a new design on a dress or a suit or something that you want to display and show folks what it is. So you're showing it as a commercial sample that this is what the product actually looks like. People can touch it, feel it, see it, those kinds of things. Now, whatever, again, you can't leave it there. It's like whatever goes in, it's got to come back out. But you can, display your goods, sign up your orders, and then move on to your next situation. Exhibition and fairs, again, that's a big one, where trade shows and things of that nature, and they will come back up. Where you're going to be able to take your goods and, again, attend that show, your booth, your exhibit, and all those kinds of things. So again, that's what some of the things you can utilize it for. As we're doing it, again, the items are able to be exported, imported under an ATA Carnet for up to 12 months. It's so that one set of documents, you can go to up to 87 different countries in the Carnet world. So the key out of all this is that what I want you to look at is why use a Carnet. The technical side of that, we can get you with the experts of people that can help you set things up and do all that. Don't worry about all the minutia here of how to use it and those kinds of things. We'll walk you through that. The key is, what is the concept? Why use it? What are the benefits of it? It saves you time. It saves you money. You're able to go into a country and clear with an ATA Carnet. And again, it saves you money. You're protecting your cash flow. You're avoiding having to outlay huge dollars in duties and taxes and things of that nature. And with that, again, that's probably one of the most effective things. Also, especially if you're a startup company, if you're a not-for-profit company or entity, if you are a small or medium company that you're trying to land some big contract, using the ATA Carnet is going to give you the ability to compete with the big companies because they use them, and yet you're going to do it cost effectively. Again, we keep coming back to eliminating the duties and taxes. The other scenario is that you can set up a strategy when you export. Do you want to hit multiple countries, or do you want to hit one at a time and come back, or two or three and then come back, or whatever? It's up to you, whatever works for you. The key is that you have up to a year to utilize that ATA Carnet and see how you can expand your markets. The way I tell people, you're simplifying the whole scenario here, where it's one set of documents for the goods that you're trying to market out there. Again, we've got people that will come alongside you and show you how to maximize the efficiency of the Carnet for what you're striving to do. That's why we're wanting to talk to you, say, what is it that you're trying to do? Maybe we can help you, because your traditional flow of business has been completely disrupted. Our volumes dropped. They didn't drop down to zero, I will tell you that. But our business right now, I mean, it dropped down to probably 10% of what we normally had, like a 90% drop. Where now business is returning. So all the gloom and doom you may hear right now, business is returning. Things are beginning to happen. We're already back up to a third of what we normally have done in a day. And it's growing day by day. I've got a great staff. That's part of it, because they are working hard. But we are hitting 724. We're doing whatever we can. But the key that we're looking for is, what is it that you need? What is it you're striving to do? Not only are we looking to try and see what we can do to help you, but if we can tap some of our international contacts for you, then we'll be more than happy to do that. It'll help you generate your business. We want to try and help businesses get back up on their feet and get running. The quicker businesses return to functioning and getting things going again, then the quicker we're going to be it'll benefit all of us. So I'm not so worried about, do you use a Carnet or not? It's like, what can we do to help you and come alongside you? Especially with the expertise that we have. If we see what your needs are, is we want to look to see, can we tap some of our network again to see if we can find some people to help you. If you need help in marketing your product in a particular country or something like that, we'll be glad to do it. But all said and done, the ATA Carnet is just one of the tools for the astute international trading partner or company. In other words, for the smart person that is out there trying to do things cost effectively and efficiently, and it gives you the ability to be flexible and mobile so you can do things quickly. You see an opportunity, consider using one of those. We can cross the T's and dot the I's with you after we're talking with you if you have questions on it. Don't worry about all the mechanics if you've never used one, or even if you have and you're still not sure what's going on with it. We've got people that will help you with that. For now, I'm going to turn it back over to Monica, and we'll have some time for some questions here, I believe, don't we?
Thank you, Andy and Rachel, and thank you to everyone that has joined us today. We did have a question from Michael, and I just answered to you, Michael. Let me know if this is sufficient or you have a follow-up question. We also have some additional questions from other participants. First question for Andy or Rachel. Is there any guidance you can give me on timing? I want my business to move forward, of course, but I can't figure out the timing of the first steps to take.
So I can help. Andy, you want to take a stab and then I'll jump in?
Well, as far as timing, as far as the next steps, I can tell you what we are doing. You're talking about regenerating businesses and things of that nature. I can tell you that we've had to take a look at things and step back and go, okay, there's some nice to haves. What are we looking at? The other thing is that what is the priority? Even as things are going back up and starting back up, if you're looking at domestically, you need to look at the states that are opening back up full tilt. If you are looking internationally, again, the same thing. Like, for example, Europe is now beginning to open back up, but the UK itself is still shut down. There are some other countries that, as you're monitoring it, how open are they? The one thing, for example, is it's going to be a little while before the orchestras and the concerts are going to be opening back up. But they will be, because I see some opportunities. There are people that are looking at the fourth quarter. Third quarter is going to be pretty tough. But what's the next step is, first, what is it that you feel like that you can identify? And then as far as your markets, what you're striving for. And you're going to have to look at things maybe from a whole different perspective as far as the next steps. And if it's one of those things that you just not sure what to do, you need to take some time to literally brainstorm. That can't be important. Traditional status quo is not going to work. So that's your next step, is you just need to brainstorm some things and just put some things, if you will, on a whiteboard or on a pad and start thinking it. And then you go back and look at it and say, what's relevant? What can we do now? And what are you going to have to put off to a little bit later?
Excellent. Thank you, Andy. Rachel, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I would say, anytime that you're looking at reentry or restarting, you have to look at number one, what are your clients doing? What are they asking for? What's happening in the current environment? You can't do something if you can't fly into a certain country. You can't do that right now because of the regulations. So you've got to look at the regulations, do some research. Like on the first webinar, we talked about research. It's critical that we look at our competitors as well as other industries, look at the countries, look at the states. Everything is different. Complexity of global trade has always been complex. Global trade has always been complex. Now it's even more complex because there are so many different rules and regulations in place. And so partnering with a company like Boomerang can also help you. Just having a conversation with one of our CSSRs to understand, can I do this right now? When will this be open? What can I do when would help as well. So I would say communicate, research, partner with Boomerang to understand what's happening and when you can do that.
Excellent, thank you. Another question. Can I apply for a Carnet without knowing when I will be able to go to Mexico?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, that's one that, yes, you can get ready ahead of time and have things set so that when, if you will, Mexico or any other country that opens up, you're ready to go. That's going to be a key thing, that if you are looking at going into any country, let me tell you, it's going to be paramount that you need to look at things, get ready now as you're going down. Or we may even tell you, it's like, you know what, if you're only looking at a certain country, maybe wait a little bit as far as getting that going. But pretty much, to me, it's one of those, it's good for up to a year. So things are going to open. The question is, when it does open, are you ready to go? Or are you going to have to get in line behind everybody else that says, now we want to go into that? So I'm a big one to prepare ahead of time and be ready to go so that you can leapfrog your competition into jumping on an opportunity.
Let me also add to that. Carnet document, as we mentioned, is good for 12 months. So you can travel at any point within 12 months. So if you are not sure when you will be traveling, you can still submit the application to us. Our Carnet specialist will be in touch with you to get all the details about the trip, advise you about any country advisories. And once you give us the green light, we'll get the Carnet process and get it to you for next day delivery. So the process is really, really simple, and we will be happy to work with you. Last question. How can I market and advertise if I don't know when I will get delivery of my products and can give my customers guarantee of delivery?
Well, I would tell you, and Rachel, I may defer to you on that one, but to me, again, there's one thing about marketing is another thing as far as your sales. When you've got somebody that is, marketing is to get your brand out there, to, get your product out in front of folks. And then the other scenario there is then, again, you're going to have to balance that out. So, I mean, it's understandable on some of that, but it's better to have a order in hand with your suppliers as well. They're challenged with the same thing, as well as the logistics on some of these things. So again, that's one of those things that it may take also when you're at a certain point. If you're identifying people that have the need and you've got the product for it is one thing. The second thing is the logistics and making it become reality. And that may be something where you may need some, expertise to come along. Again, if we can help you with some of that, we'll be glad to say, you're looking at ocean freight or you're looking at air cargo, you're looking at multiple modes of transportation in your supply chain. Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add to that, Andy. You should be marketing and advertising no matter what. So in my opinion, I don't think you ever stop advertising what your product or service is. And so understanding what your clients need and when they need it is important. Amazon started doing free shipping, right, for clients that weren't even Prime, because they realized that it was important for them to actually get things to clients quicker. That was more important for them at this period of time. So even though you don't know when you can deliver your product, you should still be marketing and advertising that and planning ahead.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Andy. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. Please don't forget to sign up for our complimentary 30-minute business consultation. We would love to chat with you about your business plans and how you're going to rebound, which is coming up. And I hope I will get to see you next month for our third part of the webinar in this series. Well, thank you so much and have a lovely day. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.